All right, so we start off by doing a little bit of webstorm. So the prerequisites for this, you need to go to JetBrains student and then get the sign up for the student license, and then whenever you download this WebStorm, you'll sign in with okay. When you sign up as a student, you're going to sign up with your NJIT email address and create a password. Then whenever you install the WebStorm, it's going to ask you for that email address and password, and then it's going to give you 1-year license. You can renew it just by, they'll send you an email before that 1 year's up, and then you can renew it as long as you have a student email address. So I just downloaded and installed it. It works the same on Windows, Mac, everything. It's all the same. So I'm just going to start up WebStorm. So I go up here. So I already have a project started, but when you first start it up, you'll need to make a project. So I go here, my button says create new project, and so let's make a project is117 005, and I'm going to click over here on the left hand side. They have a bunch of different starter templates, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Twitter Bootstrap, and I'm just going to click create. So once I do this, I'm going to right-click on the menu in the left, which is Untitled 2, and I'm going to go to New. And in that, I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call it index.html. Once I do that, the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to use Git. Git is built into WebStorm. So I go to VCS. Up here, VCS stands for Version Control System. And then I click on Enable Version Control Integration, and then it's going to ask me what kind of version control do I want. Now, you'll see a bunch of them. There's a CVS, Git, Mercurial, Subversion, but we're going to pick Git. They've had version control software for the last 40 years, so it's just that Git's the most popular today. Like CVS was the first one, Subversion was another one that came along later. So it's like all the different types of version control it's compatible with, but we're going to use Git. They all do basically the same thing. The Git was made because all the other version control systems rely on having a central server that has to do the commits. Like you always have to have a network connection to that server. It's kind of like it's like a website. And in order to use the version control systems, you had to have a network connection to that server. Well, the guy that made Linux, his name is Linus Torvald, and Linus Torvald, he wanted to make a better way of managing the Linux project, to make Linux. And so he made Git work so that it could do version control, but it does it without having a central server. It's a distributed system for version control. Kind of like the Bitcoin of version control. So I select the type of version control that I want. I click OK. Once I have this done, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to VCS, and I'm going to click on commit. And here's the trick. So in this project, it has where it says unversioned files. So let's get some terminology. Unversioned files means that Git has never seen these files before. Remember how I said Git, when it does a commit, it makes a difference between the old file and the new file? So when it says unversioned files, it's saying, I've never seen these files before. This is a new, I'm gonna add them to tracking, and I'll make a commit, but I'm not gonna make a difference. This is gonna be adding them because they're unversioned. It's never seen them, if you've seen them before. So what I need to do in this case is check the unversioned files dialog. Like you can see, hold on, let's see if we can. Makes it a little bit easier to see. So I check unversioned files and I pick out everything, and then I go and then it'll make me type a message, and I'm going to say feature colon added bootstrap project files. So I'm basically saying, like, I say feature, and then it's just a message. It's like just the protocol. So if you do something new, it's a feature. If you fix something old, it's a fix. So you always do feature colon whatever it is you're doing. Or if you were fixing something you already did, but you're adding something to it, then you just be add. I mean fix, sorry, fix. Fix colon. So it's either feature for something new or fix colon for something that you're fixing. So then I click commit, and then it's just checking some stuff. You can, I forgot to do it, but you can uncheck perform code analysis, because like right now it's doing code analysis, and which takes a long time because it's like a lot of code, because Bootstrap's got a lot of code in it. And you don't have to do the code analysis. You can uncheck that. It goes a lot faster. But I'm just going to let it go through. And I'm just going to say commit it. And I'm hitting OK. And so now that's made its first commit. Now, let's say I want to do something else. Next thing is I'd like to get my index.html file connected to Bootstrap. So I'd like to get index.html to function and to get the Bootstrap homepage to show up the first time. By the way, what we're focused on right now, just to let you know, I'm not teaching you HTML. I'm kind of just teaching you how to run the version control system. Like just how to navigate the text editor. I'm not going into the details of HTML now. This video is just literally how do you put some text in, do a commit, save it. We're going to do HTML and stuff like that, but we're not going to do that until you can run the version control system, because everything you turn in to me moving forward has to be done with Git. Like when you work, the way we're doing it with feature, fix, commits, individual small units of work, that's how you have to write your projects whenever you turn them in. Like my thing about the projects is, I'm not so much concerned that you have fancy web pages. All I want you to really get is that you run the version control system right, so that if you go to a job interview and you pull your GitHub account out and show it to somebody, that they're like, oh, you can go to work. Like, I'm like stacking the deck for you. I'm like helping you out so that when you show this version, when you show the projects you did in 117, that this is how, what somebody who's like me, who hires developers and technology people, they're going to recognize that you can go to work and know basic work procedures that they would find at that office, so that you don't have to get hired as like a manual QA tester. Like, that they don't have to look at you like they're going to have to retrain you or train you to do a bunch of stuff. I want you to walk in and you don't have to look like you need training. So on this HTML thing, what I want to do is I want to get the Bootstrap thing set up. So I go to Bootstrap, and then Bootstrap has examples. And actually, let's do it this way. Go to Documentation, Introduction, Quick Start. And then they give you a starter template. So I'm just going to take the starter template. And I'm going to paste it into the HTML. And for right now, I'm just going to leave it as it is. In the future, we're going to make some changes to this. And then I would go up to VCS and commit. And then you can't really see this too good, but it's gonna pick up that before it said unversioned files, but now it doesn't say unversioned files because we haven't added any unversioned files. All we have done is add text to the index file. But Git was able to know that we added text to that index file, so it automatically selected the index file as the file has been changed. And now the only thing I have to do is just put a label on it of like, what did I change? And I could say feature, added, Bootstrap template, to index. And then I would just click on, I'm going to uncheck code analysis and uncheck to-dos, and then I'm just going to click commit down at the bottom, and it would just do the commit. So it's like, say that you're going to do something, do it, do a commit. Because think about this. Imagine you go to work and your boss says, what did you do today? And you're like, I did some stuff. Or I fixed blah, blah, blah. Well, it's better if you could just show all the commits that you did. Like, you would just be like, that's exactly what I did. Because what happens is in the workflow, so for example, when I work on a project, I do my commits, then I usually call, there's people, a lot of times in development, you work with people all over the world. So for example, I work with people in Vietnam a lot because there's a 12-hour time difference between here and Vietnam. So I will end my day and I send a message to the guys in Vietnam, and then they start up and then they look at my commits, like they see commit, Keith did this, like they'll see exactly what I did, and then they're going to do another 8 hours of work before I get online, and then they're going to commit and commit and commit and commit, and then I go online, and the first thing that I do is I look at their commits to see how far they got into the project and understand what they did, and then I'll send the next series of commits. So it's like programmers on one side of the world, commit, 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 commit. I go to work the next day, I read what they did. Now, if they didn't do commits for each individual small change, it would be like trying to read a book with no page numbers. It would be confusing because you wouldn't know that this little bit of code here fixed this issue here. You wouldn't know this little bit of code was how they got the button to go press a button and do an alert. Like, so these commits become like a resource for everybody in the team when they have a question on how to do something, I can just look up and search my commits and say, oh, somebody added Bootstrap template. How did they add the Bootstrap template? I click on it and it'll show me the code, the actions that they needed to take in order to add the Bootstrap template. So it's how we manage the information inside of our programming team is through the commits and how all this works. So once I had this, I'm going to go here and I'm going to look up and show, go to VCS, and just to show you some like features of this, I will go to show history, and then here's what I'm showing you. See? So here, I can see that this was added, and right now, when I click on this commit, that was the last one. So this was the first one. So in the first commit, I had the code there, and then in the next commit, I can see that previously there was nothing, and then this got added. Now, one of the things up here is I highlighted the commit and I clicked this button at the top, which was revert, and that allowed me to undo the commit. All right, so another little feature of Git to understand is, do you ever type something in Word and then you closed it and then you wish that you could undo, but you can't undo once the program's closed? That sound familiar? Do you ever think that somebody might want to undo some code? So the commits allow you to do what's called a rollback, so you can reverse the commits. So the commits can play forward in the project, so it's like bang, 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 and then they can reverse all the way back to the beginning. And you can actually pick commits to remove from the history of what was done. Another thing this does, which we're not getting it into yet, but it's, well, I'll show you this. It's kind of interesting. So we're going to look at another thing about Git is what's called branching. Do you ever, whenever you've written programs before, did you ever have like file1.py, file2.py, file3.py? Like you'd have multiple files that would actually just be different versions of the program that you were writing? Does that sound a little familiar? Well, in Git, what we do is see when I reverse the commit, you see it removed the text that I added. So when I reversed the commit for the Bootstrap template page, that was the commit, I reversed that, it took the text out of it because it removed it. Anyway, so let's say I was going to add a new feature to this system. I'm going to put this text here, and I'm actually going to do the commit again. So I'll do it this way. So if I go up to VCS and I go to Git, it's going to have a bunch of different options here, but one of the options it's going to talk about is branches. So I go to branches and I click on create new branch, and this is going to be Bootstrap template branch. And I click OK. Now, what this is doing, forgive me if it's hard to explain, but it kind of is. So imagine you have the files in your directory. So you got your files in your computer in your directory. When I create a branch, it takes a copy of all of the files that I have in my directory and swaps them for another copy. So each branch even though it's the same directory, you will look at the directory. You will not like change directory. You're not going to change. You're not going to move files around. You're not going to do any sort of file manipulation on the file system directly yourself. But when you create a branch, or when you switch branches, creating a branch creates a copy of all of the files in your repository, all of the files that are in the project. Then when it creates a copy, it creates a branch. Then what's going to happen is that you edit the branch, you change the files that are the copy, and then you do what's called a merge, and the merge can put one copy here and another copy here and put them together. The reason why you do this is so that if you want to, like for example, that there's what they call the master branch. The master branch is the current perfect working copy of the computer program. When I create a branch from master, so I made it a branch called Bootstrap template. At this moment, Bootstrap template doesn't work. So I'm going to go make it work. I'm going to go make that feature. When I'm finished with that feature, what I do is I merge Bootstrap template back into master, and then now master, the original branch, that becomes updated with the new code. And when it's updated with the new code, then whenever another person comes along and they want to get started with the project, they work off that current version of master that they're going to have. So basically what happens is that the workflow is like this. Let's say we're in a team of 3 people. We all clone the repository, so we all get our own copy of the software. Got it? When we get all the copy ourselves, then each person makes a branch for whatever they're working on. When they make a branch for what they're working on, let's say I'm the boss. Let's say I'm the leader of the project. They'll say, hey, Keith, I'm finished with my branch. Will you check it? And I will download their branch, run their code, or do whatever that I have to do to inspect it. When I certify, as I'm the leader, I certify that this works. Then I will merge their work into master, and then master now becomes the new approved version of the program. So it's you want to do some feature, you clone master, or you clone the project, then you make a branch, you do your work on the branch, then you say, hey, this work on this branch is finished, and then you or someone else, if there's a team leader, will merge that work into master, and then that becomes the new version that everybody does. I know that you've never heard this before, but it's like the sooner you guys get used to doing it, the sooner you guys get used to just working like this, it makes it work great, because you know you all have to take like this capstone class, and most of the capstone projects have you making some sort of application, like a software application. This is the only effective way you can work in a group of computer programmers. Like this workflow of clone the repository to get a copy of the original code, then make a branch, which is going to be your changes. That's the new stuff you're going to add, because you don't want to edit the master working thing, because what if there's something you do to break it? You don't want to break master, because somebody else is going to have to come along and start working on it. So it's like you're going to do page 1 of the web page, you're going to do page 2, and he's going to do page 3. You all would want to start off with a currently working version, wouldn't you, when you were going to go do your work? So you all want to start off on master, but you can't edit master, because if somebody else comes along while we're doing this and wants to start working on it, they don't want to download a broken program to start with. They want to get the clean master. So everybody that works in the team works on their own branch. Then whenever they say that they're finished with their branch, then either that person or their team leader will merge their work into master, so that the next time someone comes along, whether it was you or another new person on the team, that new person can download a working version of the program or working version of the website to get started with whatever they're going to do. It's basically so that, imagine you were trying to work with somebody and you're both trying to edit the file at the same time. It wouldn't work to be able to edit the file at the same time. You'd end up with a lot of problems, like you'd end up saved collisions, or somebody would end up part of the program saved and another part of the program wouldn't be saved. It would get messy if 2 people tried to edit the same file at the same time. If that doesn't make sense, don't you think if two people were trying to write the same term paper at the same time in Google Docs, it would get messy? So you don't. So what happens is you use the master branch as the master perfect copy, and then you make your own branches you do the work on, and then you merge into master. And they call that Git flow. That's like the name of the process. It's called Git flow. And then that's like just standard operating procedure in a development shop. Like just at FYI, if you can do this and you practice and get pretty good at code by the time you're junior and maybe going to the senior, this is like a $25 to $30 an hour kind of internship. Like that's like 25 to 30 bucks an hour for an internship for someone that knows how to code and knows how to work the version control like this. Because if you don't know how to work the version control like this, they know you don't know anything. Like you could have a computer science degree out the wazoo, but if you don't know how to go work in the kitchen, it doesn't make any difference. Because they don't want to train you to do this. Because you kind of think like if you were working in a team and a person came in and they didn't know how this process worked, and they didn't know it pretty good, they wouldn't be able to work in the team. The person becomes a liability. They're like babies that can't even walk. They can't work without breaking other people's stuff. So you create a lot of personal problems. Like somebody that doesn't know how to run the version control system is kind of like a person that would get taken onto the playground and hit. Like they get some, it's bad. Like you can, because what happens is when a kid comes along and they don't know how to run the version control system, they can break stuff. Like they can make it so that I have to spend the weekend fixing problems that someone introduced to the code because they didn't know how to run the version control system. So it's like super important you just get used to this workflow because you won't understand it right now, but after you do it again and again and again and again, you'll get this perfect workflow and you'll be like amazing because you'll just be able to go to any software development team and go work and go work productively in a group, and your projects are just going to go a lot smoother, and it's just better for everybody. So what happens is that I just made a new branch in Git or in WebStorm on the lower right hand corner, and it's super small. I'm going to try to blow it up, but in the lower right hand corner, it tells you what branch you're on. So you can always look in the lower right hand corner, it'll tell you what branch. And then I can do click on master, and then I go to checkout, and then that switches me to master. So basically, imagine you were driving a truck. Like this is like I was saying, like in the beginning it was like a metaphor of driving a semi-truck. It's like when you can make a branch and then you can go to the lower right hand corner and you can switch the branch, and the computer does it so fast that it just swaps all of the files that were in that old directory with the files that are the copy. So it's literally just doing an instantaneous copy and replace of whatever files what's being worked on in that directory. So I would go over to master, or go to the bootstrap template, and I would click checkout. So now I'm in index. So like, what's this? I'm in index, and I'm going to put this code right here, and then I'm going to save it. So I'm on bootstrap template branch, but then I'm going to go to VCS, and I'm going to go to commit. Oops, let me make a change here. I'm going to go to VCS, and I'm going to go to commit. All right, so fix, changed, headline, text. All right, and I commit it. Now, I'm on Bootstrap template, and then I'm going to go to master and go to checkout. And it's hard to see, But whenever I went to checkout and I switched branches, it changed the text that was on the screen because it was swapping that index file for the master index. Because master doesn't have hello world is117. The template branch has hello world is117. So when I'm on the template branch, I'm going to switch back to template branch. Now it says hello world is117 on that. But if I go back to master and go to checkout, swap branches, now it's just hello world. Because master does not have the edits, it doesn't have the commits, it doesn't have the edited files for this particular change yet. What would have to happen is that I have to take the template branch and merge the template branch into master so that the master is now updated with the code that's inside template branch. So now what I'm on master, and then I could be like master, go to bootstrap template, and then I want to take the code from the bootstrap template and I want to put it into master, because now master would be the new good copy of what we're doing. Got this? So now I want master to, now it's like I woke up and I'm like, I got a bunch of branches from people, and I'm like, I want to get this code I just checked, and this code's good, so I want to get this code into the master copy of the program. So I pick the branch that I want to merge, and I'm on master, like I'm currently on master, and I'm going to just do merge. And when I merge, now I've taken the commit that is on the template branch, and now that commit is now added to the master branch, and that will update the screen. So now master says hello world is117, and then the template branch, I can check that out. That also says it. But if I go on template branch and I say hello is117, this is great, and then I go down here, go to master, hit checkout. Oh, my bad. Do the commit. Keep the same message. And then I switch branches. This is great goes away. So the gist of it is each branch is a separate copy of the commits that are in that particular branch. It's like you have master. Master is like the trunk of the tree. It's like imagine a tree, and that's the big trunk of the tree. Then the tree branches out, and the branches that are on the tree are each of the individual copies of the program that are currently being worked on by you or other people. Make sense? The branches all get put into the trunk. All the branches eventually should be put into master. Now, maybe if it's junk and they say, I don't want that, then that never makes it. But any good branches will get merged into master. And master continuously becomes the updated copy that everybody starts with whenever they go to work and start on that new feature. So like what'll happen, like this will, imagine this is kind of like the work scenario. This is like a day in the life, or a week of the life of a project. So you wake up, go into your living room in your PJs, and then you turn on the computer, and then you start chatting on your text, and then you look at your commits. So you see the commits that people, while you were sleeping, were doing, because you're going to work with people all over the world. You see the commits, and check, you see what's happening. Then, if you're the boss, then you start merging commits that work. So you're like, I go on my master branch, I just check somebody's code. Now I'm going to pick, what's your name? Jerry. And now I pick Jerry's code, and Jerry's code is going to get merged into master, and now master's now got your code incorporated. And then we're going to go to the next one and merge that person's code, and then that's going to be incorporated. Sometimes the way to look at it is we run through the commits, And then it'll be like, it's just like in just like in school, there's a due date. Because we're going to say, okay, we're going to start what's called a sprint. Did you ever hear of sprint? Okay, so sprint is a term used in software development and project management, where it's a period of time we're going to work really hard. It's like sprint running. This is like we're going to work our ass off. And then sprint and get a lot of work done. So what happens is that I'll set a due date to say, like, on Thursday is the day that everybody has to have their branches finished, because on Friday we're going to have a meeting where we're going to do code review and everybody's going to have to show their code in the meeting in the office. And then as we do Friday code review, then we're going to merge all of the approved commits, or over the weekend you're going to fix whatever was wrong on the Friday merge. So then on Monday, everybody's going to be able to start off with a new master branch to start that work week. Does this kind of make sense? You understand, like, that this is like deeply integrated into the day-to-day work of what someone does in technology. So it doesn't matter what kind of language you work in. It doesn't matter if you're a data scientist and you are whatever. If you have a job where you're going to use your mind to write something that's worth money, this is how they manage it. So because the thing is like, if you've ever written any code, like you're working in the Python class, and then you have this file, and you're like, should I change this, or could I try something new? But you hesitate to do that because you don't want to overwrite what you already did that worked, but you have an idea that could improve it, but you don't want to throw away what you already did. And that's whenever a lot of people keep making one file after another. Those branches become how you can have an idea, experiment with what your idea is, and if your idea doesn't work, you didn't break the good program, you just broke a copy of the good program, and you can throw that branch away. So it reduces the risk of you causing problems because it allows the management of putting your code and other people's code together in a thoughtful way. All right, so once we had it like set up like this, then the next thing that we're going to want to do is, and I haven't done this, I mean I've done this, but I haven't done it on this right now on this account, so we're going to check it and see what happens. So in here, actually what I'm going to do is this. So right now, do you guys get the idea of Git? Like kind of the idea where we're talking about the versions, the branches, the commits, the changes, the repository. It's like, let's do a vocabulary, okay? Like this is notes. Like if you want to take some notes, whatever, just so you got a cheat sheet. Repository equals project. Commit equals change. Branch equals copy. Merge equals put copies together. Merging is merging two copies together. So branches are copies. Repositories are projects. Now, I mentioned GitHub, and we're going to use GitHub, and sort of the output of this class is that you should have a GitHub account that has a portfolio kind of that you use as part of your resume. Like what you might find, especially if you're going to want to be a programmer or something like that, or do technical work, they don't even want to see a resume. They want to see your GitHub. Like your GitHub is worth more than your resume. Because I don't want to read your resume. I just want you to send me your name, email address, a link to your GitHub, and I'm going to click on your GitHub and I'm going to look at what code you wrote and what you did, and that's going to tell me all I need to know about you as a potential employee in my tech company. So a lot of tech companies, they even have it set up where you don't even send them a resume. They just like, you sign in, there's a link that says put your GitHub here, and then we'll be back to you. So I'm going to go on GitHub. And so I'm already logged in, but you would go sign up on GitHub. Then on my home page, I go up to the plus. So I'm trying to zoom in there. Go up there. And I say new repository. And I type in repository name is going to be is117 bootstrap. And I don't pick initialize the repository with a README. I don't do any of that. I click on create repository. It's going to take me to the screen where they give you some useful information. See, they're going to show you, like, Git is usually used on the command line, and these are like Git commands. These are Git commands on here if you were going to type on the command line how to use Git. But we use WebStorm right now, so you don't have to do command line. I'm having mercy on your poor souls. So like before, I made you learn Git straight up on the command line, but now we use the GUI on WebStorm because it works pretty good. Eventually, you should probably learn the command line Git. But it says here, or push an existing repository. Like these instructions at the top are create a new one, and this does it from scratch. But we already have a repository because we already have the repository in WebStorm. Got it? So we already have an existing repository. So we want to use this bit of information. We want to do Git Remote Add. And let me just show you a little, like this is helpful. So I have that text. And I'm going to come over to WebStorm. Now I could go to VCS, Git, and add a remote. And so what is a remote? A remote is just an external site. A remote is just another repository on another computer. It's just like, so GitHub is a remote. So I could click on the plus, and then I paste the URL to the project. So I could paste the URL to the project here, but I'm going to show you a real quick. So you can do it through the GUI. So you can go add a remote, click the button, put the URL to it, and add it like that. But I'll show you the command line because I think it's easier. I just go to terminal at the bottom. So the terminal is like there's a link at the bottom of WebStorm. And I paste the text that Git gives me, and then I just run it. So the text for the command is Git Remote Add Origin. Origin is the name of the bookmark. So origin is just the origin of the code. Like it's the name of the bookmark. And then the link is there. So you ever make a bookmark? You know how it has the text? In this case, origin is the text you would see when you click on a bookmark. And the URL where that bookmark goes is the GitHub, is the repository on GitHub. That's the URL. So once I do this, then I go to VCS, because what I want to do is I want to take the code that I have on my local, and I want to send it to GitHub. So I'll go VCS, Git, push, why didn't it come up with the remote? Git. Let's see if my remotes. It took the remote. Okay, I picked it up. I don't know why. Maybe it took a second. So here, what's going on is on this screen, it's telling me that you're about ready to push. Push means send. That's like pressing the send button on an email. So push is going to send to GitHub, and it's just giving me a summary of what it's going to send because I had 3 commits. And my 3 commits are what's listed. Those 3 lines there, those are the commits. So when I do this, I'm going to say, it's going to say push, and then it's going to say push failed. I know why it says push failed, the reason why it said push failed is it's not authenticated. Like it's not connected. It's like, this is my problem. You won't have this problem. On yours, when you try to push, it's going to trigger a pop-up, and it's going to say log in with your GitHub account, and you'll be able to make that happen. But for me, I switch out GitHub accounts. So like right now, my system's like programmed with my other GitHub account, so I got to swap my GitHubs. So if you want to see how to do, like, this is, if for some reason you get push failed because it's not pushing the or sending the authentication, what I do is I go up to WebStorm preferences, and then I look for version control. And actually, I'm going to search because I'm going to see if I can find this. So I'm looking for GitHub, and then so I got GitHub. It came up, and here I have to click on Create API Token, and then I type in my GitHub login. So once I type the login, it generates like a code that those lines across is like a secret code, and then I click on OK, and now that's basically my WebStorm is now logged into GitHub. So like GitHub and WebStorm are friends now. So I should be able to push. So let's see. Can we push? Let me see this for a second. I'm going to try this. So I might be having a little bit of an issue. So I'm going to go git push. I'm going to take the next line of the code. And like I said, I'm making a video so you can see this. I'm going to just go over to the terminal, and I'm going to see if I can do a push and see what it says. Because one of the things that I don't like about GUIs is, for example, right now it's saying failed. But it doesn't tell me why is it exactly failing. So I'm not really 100% sure why is it failing. But when I do it on the command line, it's going to tell me more information about why is it failing. It might fix the problem too. Yeah, it worked. So we're gonna check. So I was able to use the command here. Oh wait, to push, and I refresh. And so this is the code that was on my local computer. Is now pushed up. There's the master branch. There's the index file. That's all the code that's there. So let's try this again. So I'm going to go back to WebStorm. So this is basically the process you want to, we're going to go, as you're doing homework and submitting homework, I'm going to walk through the exact process that you would want to try to do. It's so I'm okay, I got new homework, go to VCS, go to Git, branch. I'm going to make a new branch, and I'm going to say this is going to be my home page. I click OK. It gives me a new copy. When I make the new branch, it makes a new copy. This new copy I can edit. So on my new copy, I'm going to go and say, hello world is117. This is going to be my home page. So I put that text. Save the file. Once I save the file, what's the next step? Follow the bouncing ball. After we've made a change and we're done, what's the next step? Maybe commit, but make a change, do a commit. Git, and I go to commit, and I can say fix, edit, and I do a commit. Once I was satisfied with this, now you can do this. So for example, I have the home page. So like, let's say this can help you out. So let's say you were talking on Slack with somebody in the class, you're trying to work on something. And you have your code on your computer that you're working on, and you want to show them your code on your computer. But you know, it's hard to like copy and paste the code into the text window or just send them things. So what you'd like to do is put your code online so that you can click a link, so you can put a link to the code and send it through Slack. Make sense? So like you're in process of doing something, you want to either give it to them, you want to show it to them, whatever. What I do is I go to VCS, Git, and I'm on the homepage branch. I'm going to try to push, and we're going to try to push origin, and it's like up here it says homepage, origin, homepage. So like I'm on the homepage branch, I'm going to send to origin, there's a little arrow pointing to origin, and it's going to go to the homepage branch, and let's see if it works. Yeah, there's something. I'm going to figure out what that is, but I can just do, I can do it from the command line, and so I'm not sure why it keeps failing. That's these guys. Yeah, it's not pushing right out of WebStorm. I'm going to figure out why that is. But so basically, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to figure out why that is, because I've had this problem, and it is what it is. It's like technology breaks. I have no control over this. What I've found is that in my WebStorm, I don't think you're going to have this problem, but WebStorm, for some reason, gets my old account, or not my, I have two accounts, so I got like two GitHub accounts. I have my like teacher account, and I have my company account. And so I swap back and forth between the two GitHub accounts, but for some reason, WebStorm gets one of those accounts, which is I think my company account, stuck in its memory, and it won't get rid of it. So it keeps remembering my login from my old account or my other account, and it's trying to push through WebStorm with my other account information, and it's not letting me do this. And I'm going to have to go and get a sledgehammer and beat it to remove it out like it's a pain in the butt. But I think whenever you do yours, if you just take the link to your GitHub and you go to the remotes, you add remote, and you paste the link to GitHub, like it's in the video, it'll be in the video so you can see it. You're not going to have this failed push. Like you will not. I'm pretty sure you won't have that problem, because I know that this problem comes up because I switch between two different accounts, and for some reason the JetBrains stuff doesn't like switching between the two different accounts. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to stop this video.